What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Goods. Today, we got our second episode, 13 to 24, second round picks. After this intro, can you deal with that? Hey guys, welcome back to the Fantasy Goods. Thanks for watching. Before we get started, I want you to click that subscribe button. We got more content coming your way. If you can leave a comment, we'll get back to you, and hit that like button. So let's get started right here. At the 13th pick, Fantasy Pros has ranked Chris Godwin. Now, I already had Chris Godwin as my 12th pick, but Josh, you also have Chris Godwin as your 13th pick. What do you think about that?
Yeah, man, I got Chris Godwin going here at number 13. The more research I do on this guy, the more I fall in love with him. He finished wide receiver 2 last year with 276.1 fantasy points. Plays both outside and inside in the slot. Never comes off the field. One stat I found interesting about him is he's improved every single season in terms of yardage. He had 525 his rookie year, 842 his sophomore year, and then he exploded for 1333 last year. Now you throw Tom Brady in the mix, who's notorious for favoring his slot receivers, elevating players around him, guys like Welker, Amendola, Edelman, for example. And, you know, do you think they do what they did without TB12? No. This kid's better than all of them. So I'm looking at this kid to be a bigger, better Julian Edelman this year with Brady in the picture, and expect big things from him.
Yeah, no, I love myself some Chris Godwin. But at number 13, me personally, I have my boy Aaron Jones, the second best running back last year in PPR format, over 1,500 yards and had a record high 19 touchdowns. This kid is a monster. Now, I understand that Green Bay doesn't have that many weapons. So they have Davante Adams, they have Aaron Jones. Now, I don't think Aaron Jones is going to have the same season that he did last year because, let's just face it, that was a monster season. You know, 19 touchdowns, that's a lot. That is a lot. I don't know if you can comprehend that, but that's a lot of touchdowns. But he's definitely going to regress. But I think he's still going to have RB1 points. That's what I think. But you have Aaron Jones as your number 14.
Yeah, I see Jones going here in the early second round too. I just don't see Eckler repeating what he did last season. I think he's going to be like this year James White, where he was the PPR cheat code the year before, and then he drops off into the middle of the pack. So I'm going with Aaron Jones here at 14. Here's another guy who finished number 2, you know, like Godwin did at wide receiver, except Jones did it at running back. Had 314.8 fantasy points, tied league leaders in touchdowns like Derrick Henry for rushing touchdowns with 16, and Christian McCaffrey with total touchdowns for 19. So this guy can get into the end zone, you know, and in my eyes, he's just a really great back. He does everything very well. Ran for over 1,000 yards, caught for over 400. And, you know, even in a mediocre situation like Green Bay is right now, you know, they're kind of working against them, not giving them a lot of weapons and chances to succeed, but they're still doing it. Guys like Davante Adams, Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Jones. So, you know, I agree with you. I think he's going to regress a little bit, but he's definitely going to have another great year, RB1 numbers. So I'm going to take him here just for the fact that obviously his ceiling is RB2. So I'm chasing the ceiling here.
All right, guys. Well, Fantasy Pros has Austin Eckler as their 14th ranked overall. Now, I also have Austin Eckler as my 14th ranked overall, and I love him. I think he's a PPR stud. You know, last year he went off, you know, in receiving alone, he got 92 receptions for 993 yards and 8 touchdowns. You know, it was a great season for Austin Eckler. He really stepped up, especially with Melvin Gordon not being in the mix for a while, and then him being back into a mix for a little while. You know, it's just a lot of back and forth action, and he still produced borderline RB1 number. I understand most of his production was with Phillip Rivers, short passes to him, but you know, I still think he's going to produce RB1 numbers, and this is why I have him at 14. All right, guys. Well, with the 15th pick, Fantasy Pros has Travis Kelce. As a matter of fact, all of us have Travis Kelce, and as a matter of fact, that is Josh's Man Crush Monday. Josh, why don't you tell us about him?
Yeah, man, we all agree at 15. I love me some Travis Kelce. Dude has been a stud at the top of the tight end position for the last 2 years in fantasy, and he's in prime position to do it again. He's never had a finish lower than tight end 9 set an NFL record with 4 consecutive seasons with 1,000 yards at the tight end position. He's Pat Mahomes' favorite target, the most targeted player on the Chiefs, and he's on the field for more snaps than guys like Michael Thomas or Ezekiel Elliott with his 92% snap share. So Travis Kelce's a beast, man. And honestly, if I could get him here in the early of the second round, pick 15, I'd feel like I got a wide receiver 1 that I could put in rather than a tight end that I could put in my lineup. So here I take him at 15 and feel like I got a top wide receiver and be happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said before, I just want to part of this Chiefs offense. Like, this offense is elite, and I know any part of this offense could score at any time. So, yeah, I agree. At 15, Travis Kelce. But at 16,
yeah, man.
Fantasy Pros has Kenyan Drake. Josh, what do you think about Kenyan Drake, and what do you have?
I think this is a little early for Drake. I mean, we haven't seen him shoulder an entire season by himself, even when he was in Miami. So at 16, I got a guy who, we saw do well last year, Josh Jacobs. I love everything about this kid, from his style to his backstory coming into the league, being homeless, going to being the lead back at Alabama, and then being a first-round pick for Oakland last year. He just has that heart that isn't really looked at anymore in football. You just love seeing guys like this succeed in the league, and I think he's going to go for a big breakout year this year. Last year, he had 13 games, missed a couple of injuries, and then winning the starting job, but he still had 1,150 yards in his 13 starts. So he showed you what he could do. He's not really big in the pass game and never really has been big in the pass game. So he's kind of going to be like that Nick Chubb or that Joe Mixon, where he's going to get you that 1,100 yards running between the tackles and lots of end zone carries. And, last year you got to think about that offense. They were very, across the middle passing and give the ball to Josh Jacobs. But now that you got a guy that they drafted in Henry Ruggs III and the emergence of Darren Waller, they're going to be stretching that field a lot more. So I could see them opening up things in the middle where guys can't stack the box, and this guy being able to get through and break out for more yardage. And also, I think that Oakland has a very underrated offensive line with guys like Richie Incognito, Rodney Hudson. I just think they're very underrated. So I like Josh Jacobs here coming off as my 9th running back off the board, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people this year.
Yeah, no, can't take Josh Jacobs out of it. I think he was a great rookie last year, and I think he's going to take the next step forward. Yeah, well, at 16, I have Nick Chubb. Now, he was the running back 8 last year with 255 fantasy points. That's pretty good for a running back. 298 carries for over 1,400 yards and 8 touchdowns. This guy's a stud last year. He had Kareem Hunt, but he was suspended for 12 games. And now he's in the mix all year round, so we'll see how they split those carries. I still think he's going to put RB1 numbers up there, even though there's 2,000-yard running backs up there. But yeah, I like him at this spot, 16. And they have the 5th easiest running back schedule too. So on top of that, even more reason for me to pick him at right there. So here at 17, Fantasy Pros has ranked George Kittle. Now, I'm not going to knock George Kittle from going off right now. I like George Kittle also. I just like someone a little bit better right now. I like Joe Mixon. I have Joe Mixon going at number 17. And, Joe Mixon, he was RB13 last year. He rushed for over 1,100 yards. He's still a good running back, and he finished back-to-back seasons, 2018, 2019, were over 1,100-plus yards. It's all what's going to happen with the Bengals. I got to see what the offense looks like, but I like him. The talent is there. The production is there. He's not going to be involved with the pass game a lot because of Juvenile Bernard, but, he's still a downfield runner. He's still going to hit people. I think he's still going to get his touchdowns. Third down carries, maybe, if they're right on the goal line. Red zone, definitely. This is a guy that you want to watch out for, especially coming in the second round. Oh, Josh, I see that you have Kenny Galladay going as your 17th pick.
Yeah, man, I'm high on Galladay. I like him a lot better than Fantasy Pros has him ranked. Look, I get that Kittle had a great year last year, but he's not Travis Kelce. It's still a little early to be taking tight ends back-to-back or this close in the second round. So I'm going to, especially when there's still good skill players on the board, and I'm going to go with the wide receiver that led the league last year in touchdowns, Kenny Galladay. Kenny Galladay, he's a wide receiver who filled that hole that Calvin Johnson left when he left and for Matthew Stafford for that big jump ball wide receiver. He's not as big or as fast as Calvin Johnson, but when on contested catches, he's 54.2% on his catch rate for contested catches. That's 7th in the league, and he makes them count because he has over an 18-yard per reception average. Running back in the second round, but who are we kidding? The Lions are not a running team. They haven't been a running team since Barry Sanders was on the team. So I'm comfortable with taking Kenny Galladay and plugging him at wide receiver 1, knowing that he's going to get the heavy pass volume that offense always has with Matthew Stafford's big arm. And I'm taking Kenny Galladay here at 17.
Right on, brother. So, at number 18, Fantasy Pros has ranked Nick Chubb. Now, you know how we feel about Nick Chubb already. We got a Chubb on for him. That's why he's going earlier than them. But here at 18, my boy Josh has former Dallas Cowboy Amari Cooper. Josh, tell us about him. I love you. I love talking about him. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm a lot higher on some Cowboys players than I have been in previous years. But, you already know how we feel about Chubb. He's off both our boards. So here at 18, I'm going to go wide receiver, and the wide receiver I like here is Amari Cooper. I've been a fan of this guy since back in his days in Oakland. Last year he finished wide receiver 10 in fantasy. And now with Dak's contract dispute going on, he's in a situation where, Dak's going to want to throw, and he's likely going to be the recipient of all those targets or a majority of them. So even having to learn a new scheme like Mike McCarthy's offense, which is typically wide receiver friendly, think of guys like Davante Adams, Greg Jennings, or James Jones, and Cooper's more talented than all those guys. So in my mind, he's going to have a big season. And the only reason I have Adams over Cooper is because I think obviously Rodgers is better than Dak. But Dak's going to have to prove himself this year. He's putting his money where his mouth is on a franchise tag. And, if Dak succeeds, Cooper will succeed. So, and I know that Cooper's going to get the volume that's going to make him a wide receiver 1, and I think he'll do better than he did last year. So, he's obviously going to do better than wide receiver 10 in my opinion. So I'm taking him here at number 18.
But here at number 18, I have Kenyan Drake. Now, Kenyan Drake finished running back 17 in 2009. He was on the Dolphins until week 8, and then he got traded to the Cardinals. But once he got traded to the Cardinals, all of a sudden, it was like Kenyan Drake appeared out of nowhere. It was like if you look at the waiver wire, Kenyan Drake was going off like hotcakes. Because I guarantee you, most of you didn't even have him on your team at week 8, probably in fantasy football. But
Definitely
he played, and he played 6 games on the Dolphins where he only had 47 rushes and 169 yards. And I think the Cardinals use him so well. Even with David Johnson, that was on the Cardinals last year, he was still able to produce and splitting carries too. I think he's going to do great things this year, not to mention that he's the only running back there now. You got Chase Edmunds. I don't think he's going to be that much of a threat on Kenyan Drake this year. But, Josh, what do you have to say about Kenyan Drake? Because you have him at your 19th pick.
Yeah, I have them going next right here at 19. They got Jones going. We both already have Jones off the board. But here I got Kenyan Drake going. What this guy did after he got traded to the Cardinals was amazing. He finished running back 7 and really, only played half the season if you think about it, because he split carries with David Johnson. And if you just count his stats from the 8 games with Arizona, he was on pace for a 1,286-yard season with 16 touchdowns and 56 catches for 322 receiving yards, which would have given him 312.8 fantasy points, making him the RB3 in the league for the season. And that's with that's if you put his stats into a full season projection. So I want to see what this guy can do carrying the full shoulder of the load. We have never seen him do it yet, not even back in Miami. So, I'm going to take my chance here on Kenyan Drake, and with possibilities of producing numbers like that, I think that he's a really good shot here at 19.
So Fantasy Pros has Aaron Jones, as Josh said. But at 19, I have George Kittle. Now, we also talked about George Kittle, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He finished tight end 3 last year, but he's a young tight end. And younger than most of these guys, like Travis Kelce. Who was Travis Kelce? It took him 6 years to know his name. Now he won a Super Bowl, and now he's in the elite status. George Kittle is on his 3rd year and is a monster. No one can stop him. And I don't think it's going to slow down anytime soon. So I think I'm going to take George Kittle right here at 19. I think he might even be tight end number 1. I mean, We'll see how it is. That Chiefs offense is just too good, so I'm not going to say that he is, but George Kittle has the talent too. So what about for you?
That's a little blasphemous. I don't know if there's any tight end in the league that could dethrone Travis Kelce right now. But here I like George Kittle at 20. A little more separation from Travis Kelce. You know, Fantasy Pros has Myles Sanders going here, but I'm going to take Kittle. At 20, this is a good spot for him. He's a beast. He's 6'4", 250 pounds. One of the more athletic tight ends in the league. Ran a 4.5 240, which means he's as fast as some of the running backs. But he's definitely more powerful than just about all of them, except for maybe Derrick Henry. Because all I can remember is last year when he was carrying 3 Saints on his back while getting tugged on a face mask and still ran for another 15 yards. You know, he finished tight end 3 with 222.5 points. And I think he'll pretty much put up identical numbers this year. There's really nobody else in San Francisco to throw to. You know, who are they going to throw to? Deebo Samuels? You know, he's good at stretching the field, but I don't know if he's a true wide receiver 1. So I think you're just going to see a lot of targets and dump-offs and across-the-middle passes go from Garoppolo to Kittle. And he's going to be probably tight end 2 or 3 again next year. But I like him here at 20. I think he's a solid guy.
So at number 20, I have Josh Jacobs. Now, I see Josh Jacobs as a low RB1. Coming into the draft this year. He rushed for over 1,000 yards, had 7 touchdowns. He wasn't very involved with the passing game last year, and I wish the Raiders would involve him more in the passing game. He came off the field third downs a lot last year. I think Josh Jacobs will take a step forward, so we'll just see what happens this year. Fantasy Pros also has Josh Jacobs at 21. Now, Josh, who do you have for 21?
Yeah, Josh Jacobs is already off my board, so I'm going to be taking another running back here, a guy I've loved since watching him flip Auburn players through the air, playing back at LSU, Leonard Fournette. I called drafting this guy before he even came into the league. I mean, he had a great rookie year, was banged up his second year, and had a great year last year, finishing as RB7 with 1,100-plus yards, caught 76% of his targets for over 500 receiving yards. I mean, Fournette's a beast, man. And he's got the 4th easiest schedule for running back coming into this year, which is, I think, that's why he's challenging running backs on social media to hit 2,000 yards. So I think he's going to have another top 10 running back season, so I'm going to go and take him right here at 21 and be real happy about it.
Now, my 21 pick, I got Kenny Galladay. He was wide receiver 9 last year and finished with 245 fantasy points. Now, he caught 65 of his 116 targets with over 1,000 yards receiving with 11 touchdowns. That's a pretty impressive season right there, especially with no Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford wasn't even there for more than half the season. He caught 65 of his 116 targets for over 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns, which led the league. This guy, he's very impressive. He's on the field 87% of the time. So when that offense is on the field 87% of the time, that man is on it. And him and Matthew Stafford have a chemistry, and Matthew Stafford is a gunslinger, and he's going to throw it up just like he did Megatron, just like Josh said. And I totally agree where Matthew Stafford is going. At least for me, I like him right here at 21. But yeah, I think he's going to produce wide receiver 1 numbers most of the weeks. All right. Well, Fantasy Pros at 22 have Allen Robinson. Josh, what do you have for 22?
Yeah, I do like Robinson here if you took an RB in the first round, but for ranking purposes, I'm going to wait on him, and I'm going to go with Joe Mixon here at 22. I mean, he's been solid, but he is on a rebuilding team, and the more I dug into this guy, the more I kind of fell out of love with him, at least for this season. The line isn't great there, and he splits carries with Giovanni Bernard at about a 60-40 ratio, so he is the lead back there, but that's it. He's just an early down back, and you know, some people say he's due for that breakout season, but I think he is what he is, man. He's an 1,100-yard back with between 5 to 8 rushing touchdowns and a few catches here and there, but he's not a big part of the pass game, which isn't bad for, you know, a back-end RB1, top RB2, where he finished last year. But the passing game is Gio Bernard's job. And on top of that, you got to add in the fact that they got a rookie quarterback this year and will most likely be playing from behind him while they have great passing options like A.J. Green and Tyler Boyd. It could really affect his opportunities to run the ball. But he does get enough volume for me to feel comfortable taking him here. So Joe Mixon right here at 22.
Yeah. Yeah, no, my 22 was the running back 15 last year. Myles Sanders with 218 fantasy points. Now, I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm not going to be biased. I'm a football fan first. I like Myles Sanders this year. I like what he brings to the table. He's a little injury prone. He only started 11 games last year, and that's kind of scary. Now I have to think I have to get a backup, maybe a handcuff like Boston Scott when I have to draft him. He runs behind the best offensive line, so that's why I think the volume is still going to be there, and he's going to take advantage of it. Josh, you have Myles Sanders at 23.
Yeah, we're both much higher on Galladay here, so I'm going to go with Myles Sanders. Like you said, the main selling point is this guy plays behind the best offensive line in football, and there's really no challenge for him anymore for carries with Jordan Howard being shipped out to Miami. And this guy could just do it all, running and catching. Running back 15 last season, finished with 218.7 fantasy points. He did miss a quarter of the season, but this guy was kind of like Alvin Kamara light last season. He really rushed well with 800 yards last season, and he caught almost 80% of his passes with over 10 yards per catch, putting up 500 receiving yards last season. He does have one of the tougher schedules for running back this year, but I still see him doing big things behind this offensive line if he could stay healthy. So I like here Myles Sanders at 23.
Yeah, I like Myles Sanders also. That's why he was at my 22 spot. But,
yeah, man.
My 23rd spot, I have Mike Evans. Now, he has Tom Brady. Last year, he finished wide receiver 15 with 232 fantasy points. Now, 67 catches, over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. This guy can do it all. He's a big guy. Tom Brady had a similar guy a couple years ago. His name was Randy Moss. Big guy, just threw it up, caught it right there. Now, he's listed as the number 1 wide receiver on this team, but I think we all know Chris Godwin is going to have more targets. He did last year, and that was with Jameis Winston. Tom Brady favors his slot receivers, so that's why I have Chris Godwin a little bit higher than Mike Evans, but like I said, Mike Evans could be that potential Randy Moss from the Patriots, undefeated. Fantasy Pros has Mike Evans as their 24th pick. Josh, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I got some issues with Mike Evans going into this year. I'll get into that next episode when he hits my rankings, but here I'm going to take Allen Robinson. I've had him 2 years ago, and he was a little bit underwhelming, but he finally had his return to that Jacksonville form last year, finishing wide receiver 8 with 1,100-plus yards, 7 touchdowns. And what I love about him is he never comes off the field. He finished second in snaps for wide receivers last year with 1,003 snaps, and now added in the fact that he has the easiest schedule for wide receiver here in the NFL. And now possibly he has Nick Foles throwing to him if he does win that job over Trubisky, and I'm counting on that. I could see A-Rob finishing as a top 5 wide receiver if it all comes together and he could stay healthy. So I'd love to take him here at the end of the second round. I think he has huge potential to be a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, no, Josh, I also think the same of Allen Robinson. I got him going at 24, and I think the potential is there. He has Nick Foles now. He finally has a quarterback that knows what he's doing for the most part. I mean, even in college, if you look at the quarterbacks that he had thrown to him, like Christian Hackenberg, Matt McGloin, Blake Bortles, Chad Henning, Chase Daniels, Mitch Trubisky, those aren't very impressive quarterbacks right there. And now that he finally has someone that can throw to him, I can't wait to see what he can do. And he was wide receiver 8 in PPR last year. And I think he can be one of those second round sleepers. I don't know if there's such thing as a second round sleeper. So yeah, overall, Allen Robinson is going to overperform exactly where you draft him. If you draft him at 24, I guarantee you he's going to outperform. And you'll be very happy for what you got with him.
Yeah, man, I agree. A-Rob right here at the second round.
All right, guys, that wraps it up for today. Thanks for watching. Make sure you click. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and we'll get back to you, baby. Leave a comment. We love you. We're the Fantasy Goods. We'll see you next time.
We got the goods.
Boom.